All right, today we're diving into something pretty wild, the chemical experience. We're going to talk about how certain substances can literally get in there and rewire our brains, changing everything we see, feel, and think. So let's get right into it. So here's the big question, right? How can one tiny little chemical completely flip our reality on its head? Well, the answer is kind of surprising. See, these substances, they aren't actually creating new feelings out of thin air. Nope. They're just hijacking, mimicking, or blocking the systems our brain already has in place for, well, everything, from feeling sleepy to feeling pure joy. Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the chemical hijack. That's the basic how it works. Then, we're going to jump into the three main groups, the uppers, the downers, and the mind benders. And to wrap it all up, we'll talk about the unseen price tag that really they all have in common. So, at the heart of it all, this is really a story about manipulation. Think about it. Whether it's your morning coffee blocking those I'm tired signals or something much stronger flooding your brain's reward circuits, these chemicals are basically hot wiring your brain's control panel. They're turning the volume up, down, or just adding a ton of static to the signals that make you, well, you. All right, first up, the stimulants. You probably know them as the uppers. And the key idea here is false energy. It's a total illusion. These things don't create energy, not at all. They just borrow it, usually from your future self. And trust me, there's always a price to pay when that loan comes due. So what does a stimulant actually do? Well, it's pretty much what it sounds like. It speeds everything up. It puts the pedal to the metal on your brain, your nervous system, your heart rate, just pushing your whole body into a higher gear. Let's look at a couple of real-world examples. Let's start with caffeine, right? The world's favorite stimulant. Here's how it tricks you. It gets into your brain and physically blocks a chemical called adenosine. Now, adenosine is your brain's natural, hey, I'm getting tired signal. So caffeine doesn't give you energy, it just puts a piece of tape over your brain's low battery light. For a while, you feel amazing, sharp, focused, on top of your game. But then, once it wears off, all that adenosine comes flooding back in and bam, the crash hits, and you're left feeling irritable and just foggy. And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? We all joke about needing that morning coffee to function, but really, that desperate feeling, it's not just a cozy little habit. For so many of us, it's literally our brain trying to fight off the mild withdrawal it's been taught to expect every single day. Okay, now let's scale things up and look at a much, much more powerful stimulant, cocaine. This one works by just drowning the brain in dopamine. That's our pleasure and reward chemical, and then it prevents it from being cleaned up. The result? An instant electric rush of pure euphoria. At the peak, you feel untouchable, like every thought you have is genius. But that high is unbelievably short. The brain just burns through all its feel-good signals, which leads to this absolutely brutal crash of anxiety, exhaustion, and a craving that's just off the charts. And this is the really critical part, the long-term damage. It literally rewires the brain's reward system. The brain starts to believe that this crazy artificial high is the only thing that feels good anymore. And suddenly all the normal, everyday joys of life, they just feel dull, flat, almost meaningless in comparison. Okay, so we've talked about going up. Now let's talk about coming down. Our next category, the depressants, also known as the downers. And if the uppers give you borrowed energy, then these guys offer a borrowed calm. It's this temporary peace that you get by basically hitting the brakes on your brain's functions. So yeah, a depressant does the exact opposite of a stimulant. It reduces all that nervous activity, it quiets your racing thoughts, it relaxes your muscles, it just slows down the chatter between all your brain cells. And the most common one, of course, is alcohol. You know how it starts. That first drink gives you that warm, relaxing feeling, your inhibitions start to drop, it feels great. But as you keep going, that slowing effect on the brain starts to mess with your judgment, your coordination. And here's the crazy part, the real illusion of control. Your brain is getting slower and sloppier, but it's telling you you're sharper than ever. And the come down, we all know it. It's the hangover. That's your body and brain in a full-on chemical panic, trying desperately to get back to normal. This quote just perfectly captures the strange paradox of alcohol, doesn't it? People use it to feel more alive, to connect with people. But over time, that same chemical slowly dulls the very things that make you human, your self-control, your emotional sharpness, the things you actually need to make those connections real.
Then you have a much more potent class of depressants, opioids. What these do is block pain signals and just flood you with this incredibly powerful, warm euphoria. The peak is this heavy, blissful calm, but the come down, it's famously brutal. And we're not talking about just a bad mood. The withdrawal is a full body revolt. It feels like every nerve in your body is on fire, screaming for the one thing that can make it stop.
And that is why opioid addiction is so terrifyingly powerful. It's not just about chasing a high anymore. It hijacks the brain's most primitive survival system. It rewires you to believe that you need the drug just like you need air or water. So life without it doesn't just feel bad, it feels impossible. Genuinely, physically, and psychologically unbearable.
Okay, so for our final category, we're going into maybe the most fascinating and bizarre territory, the hallucinogens, the mind benders. Because these substances, they don't just turn the volume up or down on reality. They change the channel completely. They fundamentally rewrite the code of your perception. So how do they do that? Well, a hallucinogen basically scrambles the normal lines of communication between different parts of your brain. It's like a telephone operator getting all the wires crossed. And this causes these huge, profound shifts in how you see, hear, think, and feel everything. Let's kick things off with cannabis. The main active chemical, THC, messes with a brain system that helps regulate your mood and how you perceive things. When it kicks in, you might feel like time is slowing down, your senses are sharper. But the peak experience is a total wild card. For one person, it might be super creative and insightful. For someone else, it can tip right over into confusion and paranoia. And the come down, usually it's a pretty gentle fade out, but it can definitely leave you in a bit of a mental fog. And this is a really interesting point. It's often called harmless, right? But what this quote gets at is a really subtle, quiet change. It might not be as violently addictive as other things we've talked about, but with regular use, it can slowly teach your brain that this is how you relax. And that can make it harder for your brain to find that state of calm all on its own. And then you've got something like LSD. This takes reality bending to a whole different universe. It plays with your brain's serotonin system, and in doing so, it just completely rewires your perception. At the peak of the experience, which can go on for hours, the very part of your brain that gives you a sense of self, of I, can just dissolve. The line between you and the rest of the universe can literally blur away. Time, space, it all melts together. But this quote is a really important warning. It highlights just how unpredictable it all is. Your experience is massively shaped by your own mindset and where you are. So while it can be this incredibly profound, beautiful thing, it can also be absolutely terrifying. And for some people, it doesn't just end when the drug wears off. Those psychological effects, they can stick around. The door doesn't always close cleanly. So we've looked at the uppers that speed you up, the downers that slow you down, and the mind benders that turn everything sideways. But for all their differences, they all share this one thing. This unseen price tag. So let's zoom out now and look at the universal pattern that's behind all of it. It really doesn't matter which substance we're talking about, the cycle is almost always the same. First, it hijacks your brain's reward system. Your brain, being smart, tries to adapt, so it builds up a tolerance. Now you need more to get that same effect. If you try to stop, you get hit with painful withdrawal. And maybe the most powerful part of the whole trap is the psychological piece. It convinces you that you can't cope, or relax, or even feel happy without it, all while giving you this illusion that you're in charge, when really, you're losing control. And that really brings us to the final lingering thought. Whether it's that morning coffee that feels absolutely essential to start your day, or the drink that quiets your anxiety at night, or something that completely rewrites reality, it all boils down to this one fundamental question. When a chemical is creating the feeling, who's really in control?